Hello, this is John Adams, and this is my tutorial on setting highlights and shadows using curves. So the first thing that we want to do on this project is that we want to take a look at this image and we want to evaluate it not only from the visual evaluation but through a histogram evaluation. So if we open the histogram palette, which is under Windows, or window, histogram, we can take a look at the image histogram here, and we'll set this to all channels viewed, and then we'll show channels in color. So if we look at this way, we can look at it all channels together in this mode too, but you can see that there's some extra high peak in this highlight area, but it's way over on the left hand side, so it's right in the midtones, and you can see we have it in the red, the green, and the blue. So we can see there's a little bit more blue here in the midtone area, and then more reds in the shadow area here. So this is shadows, midtones, highlights over here. So if you see this little icon here that shows exclamation point, just go ahead and click on it, because that means that it will update where you're at in the image adjustments at that time. So it just means it hasn't been updated. So just go ahead and click it, and it keeps it up to speed. So in order to get going on this, we really need to have not only the histogram palette, but we also need the adjustments palette. So if your adjustments palette isn't over on the right hand side, go under Window and check it in the list, and it will open up. And then if you want to, you can just pull on the tab and drag it over so you can take a look at it. I'm pulling it into to the left hand side here on my video recording, because there's only limited space. So I'm working with it as best I can so it doesn't interfere with the image itself. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go into the curves levels adjustment and click on that. So if we look on that, we can see the same thing that's in the histogram over here on the right hand side. We can see that we have this peak in the middle. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to set the highlights on here. So in order to set the highlights, we want to do this numerically, and in order to do it numerically, we're going to do this differently than we did previously in one of my levels adjustments, where we just moved it over, the slider over here for the highlights. We could do that, but if you hold the Option key down, you can click on the slider and move it over until you see that highlight, and then we can get a pretty good range in here of where the highlight should be. But we're going to want to use a numeric setting for this. So we know where the highlight point is now because of our holding the Option key down and moving the slider over. It's up in the shirt about here. So what we want to do is we want to go to the sampler icon or tool in the toolbox, which if you move if I move over, you can see it. Move it up here, you can see it's down about the 5th tool down. So we just want to click on that, and then I'm going to move this back to where we were. And then what I want to do is, since I know where that highlight point is, it's right in here. You can also see it if you have your information palette open. You can also see it by moving it over this area, and you can find the highest number. You can see the numbers down in here as I'm moving. So 53. We're going to level these out eventually, but it's about 254 it looks like. Oh no, there's a 2. So if you get it in the right spot right here, that's close enough. You can hold the Shift key down, and notice when you click on the Shift key, it gives you this little target area, And what we're going to do is we're going to set that as a sample area for that specific color. Now we want to do the same thing on the other side here. Now I'm going to pull the information palette out of the way for a second, but we're going to do that over in the shadows too. For the shadows, we're going to go ahead and see where we can move this. We're doing the same way that we found the shadow area, the highlight area. We're going to do the shadow area. So we can see it's right about in here, and if we move our cursor over there down in the RGB information, you can see it's right at 0. Is about the lowest setting. There's 0, 2. That's about it right there. Let's see. 0, 4. 0, 2, right in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set that point too. So we're going to go ahead and hold the Shift key down and click and set a sampler for that also. So this is our first sampler for our highlight. This is our second one for the shadows. So now we will have those two sampler points that are set up in the information palette. You'll see number 1's over here, number 2's over here, and you can see the numbers associated to those. So we'll refer to these in a numeric adjustment to the curves. So now that we have these set, we want to bring this back because we're going to reset these ourselves without just randomly setting those. We're going to set them in a different format. But one of the things that you need to know when you're in the eyedropper control is that you want to have your sample size set to 3 by 3. It's a better range. We don't point as the smallest one. There's larger ones, but 3 by 3 is the one that you want to use. So when you're working on this, you want to have that set specifically to 3 by 3 sampling, averaged area. Okay, and I'm going to move this back up just a little bit. All right. So now we're going to make some adjustments to the highlights and shadows on this image. And what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and move the highlight over slightly. Now remember, we want to get it close, but we're not going to get it perfect. But you can see as I'm sliding it over, you'll see this is changing down in here. And we were at 250, 240, I think is where we started, but we don't want to go over 242. And then for the shadows, less than 15 is the range that has been set and double checked and used for quite a long time. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and move this over as far as we can, and then we can use the arrow keys to shift it over. So as we shift it over, let's see how close. You can see in the information palette that we're getting 245, 242. So we don't want to go over that on the other ones either. So as we go down, it's doesn't look like it's affecting the blue hardly at all, but we don't want to go over 240, so we don't want to blow out the greens. So we're going to stick to about 232 on here, and then we're going to do the same by clicking on the shadows, or we can use the plus key to switch. So up on the keyboard where you have the next to the delete keys, there's the plus key, so you can use that to switch from your highlights to your shadows markers. So I've done that, and I'm going to go ahead and use the right key to move it over, and you can see that we can't really move that over very much because as I go, I'm going to the left all the way, and I have 2, 5, and 25. So we're shooting for 15 if we can. So I might have to move this up. I'm using the up arrow to get this closer to the number that we want. The blue is still too high, way too high. So let's go back down and see. Yeah, we can't make that much different because there's a lot of blue in this image. So I'm going to go up to 10 on this. It's kind of an average where we'll go up to 11. All right, and we'll leave it at that. So we're getting as close as we can. The only thing is the blue is too high here and too high on this sample also. So I'm going to move this histogram over slightly because we have our other histogram to look at for right now, but I need to show you on the layers palette. We're going to call this highlights and shadows because we're also going to do a color adjustment using curves as well. So we're going to just double click on this and call it highlights and shadows, and have to spell it correctly, huh? I might have had it, but it's just kind of tailing over to the left. I couldn't see the first letters on it. Okay, and so there's highlights and shadows. We have it set here in layers, and if you extend this palette out, you can see the specifics on it. So we're going to turn this off for now, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go ahead and create another curves adjustment, but we're going to adjust colors first on this one. So if we go ahead and click on curves, it'll create a new layer, curves adjustment layer. Okay, and then we're going to name this colors colors adjustment. Oops. Okay. We'll name it colors and tone. So now that we have the colors and tone curves set up, we're going to want to adjust the color red, and then we'll go green and then blue. So up in the dialog box here where it says RGB, if you click on here, go to red, you'll see a indication of the color curves for, or histogram for reds. And if this, if you want to use a selection pointer, you can use a slider, whichever you want to use. As you move it over, keep an eye on the numbers here, and we want to go very close to 242, and we can get it almost exact. And if you can't get it exact, we're just going to move it over to 242. 3. I guess we'll go 241. Okay, and then we want to do the same thing over here. We want to get this closer to the number 2 sampler. We want to get it closer to 15. So if we click on this, or we could use the plus key to switch from this sampler to this one. We can go up to, if we move it to the right, it's going to go down. So we're going to have to move this one up to get it closer to, we'll go to 10. Okay, so colors don't look right. Yes, you're right, but we'll get that straightened out. So there's way too much blue in here. Well, it looks like too much red right now. So we're going to go ahead and correct this too. So we'll do the same thing with the green. Pull this over. We'll go to 2. We'll level these out is actually what we're doing. So as you can see, the green color coming over. Then I can use the arrow key to bring this over to 242. And, you know, obviously it's not going to look right until we level this out completely. So we're going to go to the other marker, and we're going to move that up and try to get this to 10. Okay. And then the same thing, we're going to go with the blues. We're going to pull this down. And notice the colors numbers in here. So that's about the best we can do with 243 is about as close as we can get. We can go back to the red and change this to 243, and then we're going to go to the shadows. We want this to go way down to 10 basically. So if we can get this over, we can get this closer to where it really should be. And that's closer to where it should be actually. So we're aligning these is what we're doing. So I'm going to go back to the red on this, and then I'm going to make sure that I'm in the highlights marker, which is this one, and I'm going to try to increase this to 43. There we go. Now we're all lined up, and blue went down to 42. So let me try going back on that and see if I can increase that to oops, I'm going to be on here 240. That's 42. It goes from 42 to 44. So I think that's as close as we can get. So now if we take a look, I'm going to move this out of the way, move this over so you can see the image better. So now you can see that I will minimize this, pull it out of the way. So you can see on here, this is with the color adjustment, and this is with the highlights and shadows. So the highlights and shadows looks pretty good, but we have a heck of a lot more color in here, and we have a little bit too much yellow actually. So we'll have to make an adjustment to that. But just remember with the curves that we can go back to the RGB setting, and we can go in here and we can use the image curve adjustment. It's a targeted area, the little hand with the two arrows, and what you can do is you can go into a specific area. We can go into our highlight, and we can increase the highlight by just dragging up, decrease by dragging down. We can go into the shadows, or we can find the midtones. You can see it moving around as I'm moving through here. So if we find a midtone area, let's see, or we can just go in here and increase the midtone slightly to get that to look the way we want. And you can go in here if you want to increase the highlights in here, you can do that. And let's decrease contrast, not too much contrast, and there we go. So you can see from here, that's where it was. So you can tell it's way too blue. To here, it's a lot warmer, and maybe a little bit too light in the light area here. Or did we create this? We'll take this one off, and we'll increase the brightness slightly. So it still seems a little yellow. So we probably want to back off on one of these colors to get it to work right, or we can go to color balance and make some adjustments in there, or hue and saturation. So please look for the next section of using highlights and shadows, using curves, and also adjusting color and tone.